Hello, and welcome to the Calvary Tabernacle Young Adult Podcast. We are so glad to have you. My name is Aaron Hussey.
And I'm Camera Hussey.
And we're the leaders of the CTYA.
We want this podcast to be a resource for you, a blessing to you, and a point of growth in your walk with God.
We pray that whenever and wherever you're listening, that each episode will speak directly to you. Thank you for listening. God bless.
We got Sister Gail coming to talk to us about finances, which, Lord knows, I know I need it. So I want to ask her to go ahead and come on up and take her liberty, and let's just get with it with her. Amen. Thank you, sis.
Thanks, Brother Hussey. How is everybody tonight? You can go ahead and be seated. All right. I've got some slides and whatnot. We are going to talk about tonight kingdom stewardship. So there's more than one element in it. Usually when I talk, it's all about money. That's all I basically ever talk about. But biblical stewardship has more to do with other parts of our lives, sometimes even than our finances. Biblical stewardship is not simply a duty. It's an act of worship, and it's a reflection of our relationship with God. We as believers are called to be faithful stewards of everything in our lives who understand that our lives, whatever resources we have, and our calling are not our own. Our stewardship flows from a heart that is transformed by the Holy Ghost and is committed to the kingdom of God. So we're going to talk about all of those things tonight with an emphasis on finance because, you know, it's me. All right, so the theology of stewardship says that everything belongs to God. And we're stewards. We're not owners. We don't really own anything. If you think about it, the Bible says the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. So everything that we are, everything that we have, it all belongs to God. It's kind of a hard concept to get. So sometimes I like to illustrate it this way. So picture you're a little kid. Go back a few years to when you were a little kid. And your mom comes home from the grocery store, and she's got a pack of 10 markers. They're all kinds of colors, but there's the black one in there. And so you see those and you want them. And you ask your mom, could I use those markers, Mom? And she says, yes, you can use them, but I want that black one because I'm going to use it to label my recipe jar. And so she gives you the pack of 10 markers, and you hand her back the black marker. Now, who owns the pack of markers? Mom. Who's going to use all of those markers? You are. As the little kid, you're going to color until they're all gone. Hopefully, you're not going to color on the walls. I've known people who have done that. So that's kind of how we need to think about everything. The Lord gives us all of these resources that we have. We can use them up, but we return 1/10 of what he gives us back to the Lord as tithing. So that's a way to think about that. Biblical stewardship is the God-ordained responsibility for managing all that God has entrusted to us. Even though it's not ours, we still have to manage it. And we want to do that in a way that honors God and advances his kingdom, right? Stewardship is not optional. It is a spiritual mandate that is rooted in the understanding that everything we have belongs to God and is to be used for his glory. We don't even own ourselves. Paul told the Corinthians, you are not your own. You were bought with a price. We belong to God. Our possessions belong to God. We're nothing without him. We owe our skills, our strength, our intelligence, everything we have belongs to God. So when we can get that concept centered down deep in our heart, it will revolutionize the way that we think about money and all the other resources that we have, and it will help us to live a life that's pleasing to Him. So what is a steward anyway? If we're going to talk about stewardship, we need to understand what a steward is. So the definition of a steward is one who manages somebody else's property or financial affairs. A steward or guardian does not own the wealth or property. He or she manages it for the benefit of the actual owner. We're temporary stewards of everything in our lives. All the things in our lives, including the truth that we understand, any gifts and abilities that we have, our time, and obviously our finances. We have to responsibly manage all the things that we have while we are here, but none of it goes with us when we die. So, sometimes we get caught up in the urge to get more and more things, especially, when you first start out. Maybe you get your own apartment, maybe you get married and you want to buy all of the things. And how many of you have ever walked into Home Goods and wanted to go out with every single thing in there, right? So we live in such a culture of consumerism that those kind of marketing tools that store managers use to make us want to buy hit us everywhere we go. We have to figure out a way to manage that, because our spending and our overall relationship to money reflects our priorities. As you think about your financial picture, ask yourself, what do your spending habits say about the priorities in your life? Think about how you spend your money. Do you spend a lot of it maybe buying clothes that you don't really need? Maybe you go out to eat all the time. Maybe you spend a lot of your income on coffee. Now, one of the questions that I always ask is it a want or a need? And so that one I feel like is right on the edge. But there are ways to get our coffee without spending $7 on a drink, right? So that's all I'm going to say about that right now. But we must be aware of and think about the difference between things that we want and things that we need. Hey, Gabe, we're already up on, I just have notice back there. Let's go to all the way up to slide 6, okay? The temptation to spend our money on things that we want but do not really need is all around us. These are things that we enjoy spending money on, because how much fun is it to go to the store and come home with a good haul? Bring all those bags out of the car, get to unpack them, show them to somebody. We have a tendency to think that life can't be fun if we don't have money that we spend on stuff. But this kind of thinking, the thinking that in order for us to live a fulfilled life depends on what we're able to purchase when we go shopping, that thinking can lead us into a pitfall of consumer debt. And that is a place that we do not want to be. Because debt, one of the things it does is it can prevent us from fully achieving God's will in our lives. Because how can we give and support the work of God if we're in debt? Because if you're in debt, now there's some debt that's kind of okay. So when you purchase a home, you're going to go into debt. I mean, how many people have got the money to just go out and pay cash for a house? Not anybody I know. A lot of times, our first car in particular, we need to take out a loan because we have to have transportation, right? So those are a couple of kinds of debt. I'm not talking about that. That's a type of debt that is called secured debt. Most of what I'm going to be talking about tonight is consumer debt or unsecured debt, also known as credit card debt. That's what we want to avoid at all costs. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that is such a terrible thing. So statistics tell us that 41% of U.S. adults have credit card debt. In 2023, one survey that I read said that only 63% of adults in this country said that they could cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money, borrowing it from parents or putting it on that credit card. So one of the things that we want to do in order to be good stewards and responsible with our money is to get what is known as an emergency fund. If you don't already have an emergency fund set up, I highly encourage you, next week, have a garage sale, do something. An emergency fund is simply a savings account that you set up with the intention of putting money in it on a regular basis, and you don't take it out until you have a true emergency. Okay, it's not because it's the week before NAYC and we don't have a new outfit. That's not the type of emergency I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is your brakes go out on your car. And you need to cover that. You want to be safe, right? So you need to have some funds somewhere to cover that kind of thing. And, I'm aware of the group I'm talking to. So I do want to point out that, mom and dad will help me with that is not the adult way to look at this, okay? So, that works for a little while. Mom and dad might be willing to help. But ultimately, we're young adults, right? So young adults need to be that adult and get your emergency fund in place. You can open a savings account with very little money, so if you don't have one, get one going, do whatever it takes, take your $50 down to the bank or whatever, open up that savings account and start dropping a little bit of money in there until you get enough there that you can cover emergencies when they happen. Because if you do have a credit card, you want to use that credit card only for things that you have the money to pay off the credit card bill when it comes in for that month. That's the responsible way to use a credit card. You can have one, you can use it, but you have to pay it off every single month in full by the due date. If you do that, you will not be charged interest and you will not be charged fees. So that's a responsible way to use a credit card and start building up your credit score. But you never want to use a credit card to overspend. So talk about that a little more in a second. So 36% of adults describe their situation as just getting by. In other words, they're living right on the edge. They can make it with their paycheck, but just barely. And when something unexpected comes along, they don't have a way to handle that. 43% of families in 2024 said they experienced difficulty in paying bills and covering their normal expenses. So, why are so many Americans in this predicament? I mean, Americans are blessed, right? There's good jobs out there. Why are so many people in financial difficulty? This is why. So I'm a Dave Ramsey financial master coach. So one of the things that I sometimes do is work with people to help them see how they need to handle their money. And Dave Ramsey made his billions from working with people who are in over their head in debt because people don't know how to get out of it. It's a terrible place to be. It will wreck your life. And the very best thing you can do if you're not yet in debt is don't get in it. If you are starting to go down that path where you owe some consumer debt on credit cards, make it your number one priority to get that paid off and get out of debt, okay? So why do people have credit card debt? Well, there's the struggle just to keep up with the cost of living because if you've bought groceries, gasoline, tried to find an apartment to rent, you know that expenses today are higher than they've ever been. There is that increase in housing expense that makes it so difficult for a young couple to purchase a home or for a single person to find an apartment to live in. Another reason that people fall into debt is the lack of an emergency fund. So again, get that going. If you haven't already gotten it, get that savings account started so that when the time comes and you do experience some type of emergency situation financially, you've got some resources to take care of that. And then it's this culture of consumerism that we live in. So, you walk into a store and right away, the lights are shining on the table. There's glittery stuff there. How many are attracted to glittery stuff? I'm always going to walk over and look at the glittery stuff. Oh, that's cute. I want to buy that. I want to take that home. And so we get used to doing that. That's fun, right? And every single ad that you'll see is pushing you to buy, telling you you're not going to be happy unless you have all of these things. And then there's the peer pressure. You can't be in clothes that are, 20 years old unless you intentionally want to be vintage. You gotta have the new stuff. You can't be out of style, right? I mean, how important is it to be in style? We all want to be in style, right? Well, I don't, but I'm old with the gray hair. You all want to be in style. So this is pushed at us from every angle all day long, wherever we go. We have to look good. We have to buy the most expensive shampoo or our hair's going to fall out. We've got to, buy the good things to put on our skin so we don't get wrinkled. We've got to have the new clothes for the conferences and meetings and the places that we go. It's never ending. So one of the things that we have to learn to do is to beware of having too much stuff. Because we don't really, the world will tell us we need all that stuff to be happy. But the reality is that a lot of stuff actually makes our lives more complicated. Having too much stuff means we got to store it somewhere. What are we going to do? We're going to get a bigger house. We're going to buy a shed. We're going to rent a storage unit. How many of you have seen all those storage units popping up on every side of town? Do you know what that's a sign of? That's a sign of excessive consumerism. Because there's not that many people that's, in the process of moving from one house to another, so they need to store their stuff temporarily. That represents hundreds and thousands of people who have simply bought so much stuff that they don't have money or they don't have room in their homes to store it. Guard yourself against that. If you have already begun to slide into this debt situation, one of your absolute biggest priorities in your life needs to be getting out of debt. The Bible says that a person in debt is a slave to the lender. This may be absolutely the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. And likely it's going to require some real sacrifice on your part. But I promise you, if you are in debt, when you get out of that debt, you will experience a freedom that you didn't even realize you were missing. So what do? How do we become wise stewards of what we have? Well, first of all, we want to make sure we pay our tithe and offerings, right? The very first thing we do when we get paid is make sure we pay our tithe. Secondly, we want to avoid that debt. And then if we are in debt, we want to make every effort to get out of debt. We're going to trust God, right? Because He has promised that He would supply our needs. He did not promise that He would supply every want, but He did promise He would supply our needs. And our needs are basic. They're really basic. Food, clothing, shelter. Really that's what we need, are those three things. And then we want to learn to live within our means. And living within your means simply means that you don't spend more than you make. Because you can have that little credit card come in the mail, and it might feel, limit $5,000. Wow, I'm doing good. Let's go shopping. We're going to talk about what that really means in a minute. All right, so no, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but answer this mentally. Do you have a budget in place that you follow? If you don't, you need one. It's very, very difficult to manage your finances if you don't have a budget. John Maxwell once said, a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So how do we make a budget? Well, if you don't have one, or if you made one like, last year and you haven't looked at it since, it's pretty easy. These are the steps that you follow. First of all, you're going to track your spending. Spend a month and keep track of everything that you spend, whether you pay with a credit card, cash, debit card, whatever, Cash App, all of those things. Keep track of where every penny goes. Write it down, put it in a spreadsheet. I like spreadsheets. I don't know about y'all, but there are apps that'll help you with that. You've got to find out where you're spending your money. Do that for 1 month. Make sure you include automatic payments, subscriptions, utilities if you have to pay those, gym memberships, whatever you pay, keep track of it for a month. You want to also make sure you know how much money you're making. How much do you get paid in a month's time? Then you need to set some financial goals. Do you want to save money? Do you have debt and need to pay it off? Is your goal just to stop spending more than you make? Decide on some realistic goals. If you have a job and you make, $12 an hour and you only work 20 hours a week and your goal is to plan a month-long trip to Europe, that's not a realistic goal for you at that point in your life. So make your goals realistic. Remember, you can adjust your goals and your budget over time. Pick the most pressing goals, such as paying off that debt or getting your emergency fund in place first. And then calculate your mandatory expenses, because some things we don't have a choice. Once we sign the papers, we got to pay it, right? Things like car payments, rent, insurance payments, all of those things are mandatory expenses that we don't have a choice every month. We have to pay it. Cell phone bills, things like that. Whatever your payments are that you just have to pay every month, make sure you record those and then subtract those from your total income. What you have left is the money that you spend on discretionary or variable expenses. These can include your goals, such as debt payment or savings. It also includes things like groceries, entertainment, gas for your car, surprise expenses, all of the other things that are not probably automatically deducted from your paycheck from your bank account every month. But you've got to know what those are before you can make your budget. So determine all of that and then put it all in a spreadsheet. There's a lot of apps out there. Just Google, say, what is a good budget app that's free? And it'll give you 50 different ones. Go through them, look at them, find one that appeals to you. Everybody's different. Maybe you like excruciating detail on all of that. Maybe you want absolutely the simplest one possible. It's up to you. There's so many out there, you can find one that suits you. The point is to create that budget, figure out what your income is and what you want to spend your money on, and then look at that and fine-tune it every month until it gets to where you need it to be. Make sure you're spending consciously when you spend your money. Spending consciously means that you're aware of what you're spending and why you're spending it, as opposed to unconscious spending. Things like, I might ask you to raise your hand on this one. How many of you have ever signed up for something like a gym membership and you go 3 times and then you never go again? But that money's still getting sucked out of your bank account every month? Anybody ever had that experience? I've done it. I've been there. That's a type of unconscious spending. We set the other thing to watch out for are those things that say free for 6 months, but you have to put your credit card or your debit card information in there. watch out for those because they'll get you. A lot of people don't notice when that free period and all of a sudden it's disappearing out of their bank account. So be careful. Watch the unconscious spending. Make sure that your expenses that you are agreeing to are beneficial to your financial health. All right. Now I want to talk a little bit about credit cards. I know I'm going super fast. I have so much material on this in just a few minutes. Credit cards are a great tool to have, but they are potentially dangerous, especially for new users who've never had one and who don't really understand what a credit card is or how it works. There is a difference between a debit card and a credit card. A debit card, when you swipe that, it looks the same, right? They both may say Visa or MasterCard on there. You swipe it, they work identically the same on the surface. But there is a very, very drastic difference between the two, because when you swipe your debit card, that money gets taken out of your bank account right then, right? So if you have a debit card that you use and you check your bank account every day, you probably maybe won't let your bank account go in the negative because you're watching it every day. A credit card, however, is actually every time you swipe a credit card, you're taking out a loan. Did you realize that? Did you know that? Because when you're accepted for a credit card, this means that the credit card company has agreed to loan you the money to pay for whatever you're purchasing with that credit card. It's a loan. You're going into debt when you swipe a credit card. Now, again, if you make this a very short-term debt and you pay off that bill as soon as it comes in and you pay the whole thing, no harm, no foul. You don't get fees, you don't get interest, you don't get any of that. But if you pay just the minimum payment, when you have a credit card, you get a bill either delivered to you online or you'll get a physical bill in the mail. And when you open that statement up, there will be a big amount that says, pay this amount now. And you're like, oh, I only owe $25. Cool. And you log into your credit card account and you pay the $25. But if you don't read the rest of the bill, you may have forgotten that what you actually spent that month was $250. You went out to eat a bunch of times, you put some gas in your car, you did just a normal thing. You don't think about it. You dig out the credit card, you swipe it, you take care of business, you go on about your day, right? And you get the bill and you're like, $25, cool. Wow, I got a lot of money. And you feel like you've got a lot of money because you're only paying a portion of what you actually spent that month. And you use the credit card and not your debit card, so you've got money left in your bank account. And so you're feeling pretty good about yourself. Now, here's the secret. The credit card company wants you to pay that minimum payment. That's what they want you to do. They do not want you to pay off the full bill. That's why that amount is in little print down at the bottom of the statement. Because when you only pay the minimum payment, the credit card company is collecting a bunch of interest from you. So who wants to guess on a consumer store credit card? Let's use Lowe's for an example because I know this one. What do you think the interest rate, if you were to go out and open up a Lowe's credit card account today, what do you think the interest rate would be on that card? Anybody want to guess? Who said 29? The last I checked, that's what it was. It was 29.9% interest. So if you have that Lowe's credit card or any other type of credit card and you're carrying a balance on that, it will take you years to pay that debt off, paying only the minimum payment. So if you have a credit card, and you have to put something on there, even if you can't pay the entire balance one month, Maybe, something happened. You don't have the emergency fund built up where you need it to be. You've got to borrow some money. Pay as much as you can. Never, ever, ever, ever pay the minimum amount due on any type of credit card. Okay, getting off that soapbox. A new credit card is not income. We're back to, I got this Visa in the mail, and it says that the limit, yay me, is $5,000. And you start feeling really good about yourself, right? Because you're like, I thought this was out of my reach, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to buy that, and I thought this, and now I've got $5,000 I can spend. Is that the right way to think about that credit card? No, because what that credit card with a $5,000 limit, what it really is in real life, is you have the ability now to go into debt $5,000. That's all that means. It's not extra income. It's extra spending power. But you've got to realize that if you take advantage of that spending power and you don't pay it off, that you're getting yourself in a lot of trouble. So be cautious. Like I said, credit cards can be a great tool if they're used responsibly, but they will get you into trouble so fast if you don't use them wisely. Understanding the dangers that come with using a credit card can help you avoid that chance of falling into a trap of consumer debt. Studies have shown that people actually spend more when they use a credit card because it's so easy. We do it without even thinking. Just like, oh, that was painless. We pick out some stuff from the store, we swipe the credit card, we're all done, we go home happy, and when the bill comes in, we owe just that little bit, we think. The other thing is, it's a psychological thing, because when you hand the cashier the credit card, do they keep it? What do they do with it if they swipe it? Usually you swipe it yourself now, but maybe you're in one of those stores where you have to hand it to someone. What do they do after they swipe it? They give it back to you. So you feel like you've not given them anything. Even if you swipe it yourself, how many of you have ever just swiped a credit card? You're talking, you don't even realize you did it. I mean, I do that all the time. You don't even pay attention to what you're doing. But if you have a wallet and you've got some, 4 or 5 10s in there and a couple 20s, feeling pretty good about yourself, and then you go buy something and you have to take both 20s and 3 of the 10s out, and you see that you've just got like $10 left in that wallet, that is a psychological difference that you can feel what you spent. That is why so many people like Dave Ramsey advocate for using cash. And I know for your age, using cash is something that a lot of people don't do anymore. But if you feel like you're the kind of person that could fall into temptation and spend too much on a credit card, I'm telling you that is a way that when you go shopping that you can prevent that from happening. Just go get some cash out of your bank, see how much you've got left in there, and then don't spend past what that cash is that you put in your wallet. It works. Okay, credit cards make it easy to spend more than you make. Okay, listen to me. If you hear one thing, hear this. If you cannot pay off your credit card in full every month, you are overspending. You are. Stop spending with whatever credit card you're using. Stop spending until you get that balance paid off. Doing so will keep you from getting too far into debt. Because if you look at all the expenses that Americans have today and you start counting that up based on average incomes and everything, it's going to be surprising to you by the time you factor in living expenses, your food, your gas for your car payment, your insurance, all of those things that we as Americans have to pay. And you look and you think, well, I have a pretty good job. I'm making pretty good money. Why do I only have $60 left at the end of the month? That's not enough to live. I got to buy these things. So that's how people start using credit cards, because they want to keep up the appearances of, I got a decent job. I can't live like this. I can't live and never spend a dime past these expenses. So they use the credit card to keep up the appearance that they have more money than they really do. So what if you're already in debt? What are you going to do? What happens? How are you going to approach that? Well, there are some steps for getting out of debt. First of all, you need to build a budget where that's your focus. Your focus is on putting every single dollar that you can toward that debt. Then you take all the expenses out of your budget that are not true needs. So suppose you went out and you bought a brand new car, and your car payment is $1,000 a month. That's a typical car payment these days for a brand new car. Interest rates are high, cars are expensive, so it is an enormous percentage of Americans right now that have car payments in excess of $1,000 a month. If that's you and your budget is tight, get rid of that car, sell it, go buy a cheap clunker. Do y'all know what I drive? My car is 10 years old. It's a 2015 Honda Pilot. It has 211,000 miles on it. It's got dents, scrapes. It's full of beach sand from Michigan. But it does me good. It runs good. It's got decent gas mileage for an SUV. I'm not about to get rid of that car. I have not had a car payment in 7 years because I drive a 10-year-old car. So what do? Once you get a car that you can drive for a long period of time, get that thing paid off as quick as possible, treat it like any other debt, put extra. If your car payment is $350, try your best to pay $450 every month to that car payment. Get that thing paid off. My car had a 5-year loan when I bought it. I paid it off in 3 years. Saved a ton of interest. You can do that too. It's all about budgeting so that you meet your goals. And then when you get the car paid off, start putting that car payment into a savings account in the bank. Just keep paying it. You're used to paying it. Just keep paying it, but pay it to yourself. And when it comes time to buy your next car, either you can pay cash for it or you can put a huge down payment on one. So, all right, I got to hurry. Just remember that true needs are not a lot of what we think we need. True needs: food, clothing, shelter. Getting out of debt requires you to have a new mindset. Buy absolutely nothing that isn't necessary during the time that you're trying to get out of debt. Going out to eat, if you're in debt and you're trying to get out of debt, going out to eat is a thing of the past for you until you get out of debt. You got an expensive car payment, get rid of that thing, get a cheaper car, get a second job. Don't just go home and scroll through social media for 4 hours. Do something to make yourself some extra money. When you make that extra money, put it towards your debt. And remember your goal. Your goal is to be free of debt. That is liberty in a financial sense that people who have consumer debt don't even know what that's like. So I like the saying, no one is bad with money, but there are lots of people who are good at making bad decisions. So spend intentionally. Know where your money's going. Don't waste it on stuff that is not important. Get yourself a budget so that you know where the money's going to go. And if you need some reinforcement, I pretty much live here. Come see me. Come talk to me, and I'll help you. So thank you. Thanks for listening. That's all I got tonight.